What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and there's been some huge developments surrounding the writers-actors strike that is currently gripping Hollywood. As you're all well aware by now, Hollywood is in a battle for its soul with corporate overlords pushing for AI to replace many of the positions within studios. Naturally, this has been met with historic levels of pushback, with many actors like Hayley Atwell saying that the industry is quite literally falling apart and it's on its knees. Atwell said it's an illusion set by studios that whenever you see an actor in something that they must be doing well. But the stark reality is anything but this. Another actor chimed in with David Oyelowo saying, "The gap between the haves and the have-not in our industry is widening at an alarming rate. The business has continued to evolve and the means of paying the people who actually make the stuff isn't catching up with the evolution." To make matters even worse, it was recently reported on multiple news sites that Hollywood executives are full steam ahead on embracing artificial intelligence, with the streaming giant Netflix listing a position for a machine learning project manager with a salary anywhere between $300,000 to $900,000 annually. This position being posted has driven many within the strikes even angrier, since 87% of the Screen Actors Guild earns less than $27,000 a year. The AI manager position is described as a new role to increase the leverage of our machine learning platform, and it's billed as the foundation for all of this innovation. The job lists vague qualifications related to machine learning, but alludes to the company's farther-reaching goals for AI in all areas of business. Netflix as a company will use AI to shape our catalog of movies and TV shows by learning characteristics that make content successful, and to optimize the production of original movies and TV shows. This is even more tone-deaf since Black Mirror literally just released an episode called Joan is Awful that predicted this exact scenario. Seriously, go watch that episode if you haven't already. It nails this entire situation perfectly. Netflix also wants to hire a technical director for generative AI for their new gaming studio as well. And the starting salary for that job position is $650,000 a year. Jesus Christ. This is all being done in an effort to use a method called generative AI, which, surprise, Netflix has already used it in a TV show to great effect. That show is called Deepfake Love, and it's basically everything terrible about AI wrapped into one show. It's a Spanish Netflix show which takes multiple couples who already have strained relationships, and then they're separated and then placed into two houses. Then these houses are filled with 15 or so hot young people who are hungry to become TikTok social media famous influencer people. Anyway, eventually the couples, now separated, are shown videos of their partners cheating on them. This obviously drives the two groups into a frenzy until it's revealed that the cheating isn't even real, but it's AI using deepfake tech to create scenarios to emotionally manipulate the contestants. And then it's up to the couples to figure out if what they're seeing is real or not, while completely removed from their already estranged partners. Then, to make it even worse, anyone who doesn't end up cheating with all the temptation around them are deepfaked onto actors, and then those fake versions say horrible things and pretend to be someone they're not. Which basically leads to people breaking up, getting their hearts broken, and everyone on the show basically losing all their faith in not only themselves, but humanity as a whole. And yes, it's a real show, and a disturbingly potent one already using AI to create its content. And this is unfortunately the tip of the spear as companies start to learn how they can effectively create endless content, and without having to pay nearly as much to actual human beings. Another weird casualty of this strike is actually online influencers, mainly those on garbage apps like TikTok. One of these influencers, which is a word I hate by the way, is Diana Guletti, who has almost 2 million followers on TikTok. I've never heard of her. Anyway, this influencer person declined a $28,000 offer to promote a series because if she did, by the rules of the Hollywood strike, she would be barred from any future work within the industry for violating the rules. So because of this, many content creators have had to reject any offers coming their way because if they don't, they'll be denied membership into guilds like the Screen Actors. which means this strike is not only affecting people working in Hollywood, but it's affecting the annoying influencers too. And a lot of these influencers like Whitney Singleton, who goes by Keep Up Radio, is frustrated that online influencers are being punished for the strike, claiming it's unfair that they have to reject 5-figure deals, and she said, "The majority of creators I've talked to about it feel it's unfair that as non-union members they're being included in this conversation. Many of these influencers, from comedians to movie reviewers, are upset they can't share content or promote movies because it might violate their ability to grow their careers." So it's kind of insane, I know, but this impact of this Hollywood strike is far-reaching and it's costing a lot of people a ton of money. There was even a viral clip where Walter White himself publicly called out Disney CEO Bob Iger. So here, watch.
I know, sir, that you look through things through a different lens. We don't expect you to understand who we are, but we ask you to hear us, and beyond that, to listen to us. When we tell you we will not be having our jobs taken away and giving to robots. We will not have you take away our right to work and earn a decent living. And lastly, and most importantly, we will not allow you to take away our dignity. We are union through and through, all the way to the end. Thank you. God bless you. Stay together. We will win this fight. God bless you.
And in terms of how much money Hollywood is losing due to these strikes, it's currently projected that every major studio will lose around $600,000 per week as this strike continues, or about $23 million a year. Which sounds like a lot to you and I, but to these studios, that's just pennies in a bucket. They can and they will absolutely outlast the strikes if they want to, and that's the scary part. A lot of these decisions to push AI and having projects be frozen from proceeding has cost these companies some very big losses as well. For example, Netflix has lost $18 billion in value over the last 2 weeks due to the delay of content because of the strikes. Mind you, that $18 billion they lost by resisting is enough money to pay every writer and actor living today a livable wage for the next 36 years. And these companies are so hell-bent on not sharing that money that they'd rather let it burn than allow their workers to live comfortably. I want you to really let that information soak in. They could pay every goddamn person in Hollywood a livable wage and still make billions, but they'd rather make even more and starve them out. If that doesn't paint the whole picture for you, I really don't know what else will. However, there is some light in the darkness since one Hollywood studio is at least willing to adhere to the strike's demands. A24 is known for their independent, oftentimes lower budget films. Stuff like Hereditary, Uncut Gems, Lady Bird, Midsommar, and many more. They make good movies. Anyway, they're basically the only studio that's been absolutely supportive of the strikes. And they've greenlit a few projects that are allowed to film during these strikes. And it's because they're cooperating with the strike's demands and paying everyone involved livable wages and actually, giving a shit about their talent. So to further drive the point home about how many of these Hollywood studios are greedy as hell, when companies like Disney or Warner Bros. Say they can't afford to pay the workers what they want, I just want you to know it's absolute bullshit on their part. Since A24, which is much smaller than the average Hollywood studio, is able to not only pay their workers accordingly, but they make a profit as well. It's almost as if greed or something is the underlying problem here. I know, crazy, but it's true. Such a bizarre concept, right? It's as if treating people with dignity and respect can lead to flourishing relationships and profit, instead of putting your foot on their neck and deep-faking their likeness for eternity like other companies such as Netflix. One of the Screen Actors Guild's vice presidents also had a lot to say on this. Michelle Hurd, who's the Guild's Los Angeles vice president, wanted the higher-ups to get a piece of her mind. This clip is decently long, but trust me, it's important, so watch.
All your favorite things that you've been watching for years, and you know those actors that you go, oh, there's that guy on that show. You may not necessarily know their names. You may see me on a show. You may not know my name, but you've seen me on a lot of things. Those actors are working class actors. We're literally working paycheck to paycheck. It takes $26,000 to qualify for your life health insurance for SAG-AFTRA. A guest star on a show, producers will do top of show. This is a verbiage that they created. It's not in our contracts, it's what they created. So they're not going to budge above whatever their top of show is. Top of show generally could be anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 or $8,000 an episode. Maybe that sounds great. So say I cobble together 2 or 3 guest stars during this a year. People, our audiences sees me on 3 or 4 different shows, and they're like, wow, that actress is working, she's doing all this stuff. I still, by doing that with Top of Show, I have still not qualified for my health insurance. We literally are going paycheck to paycheck. Back in the day, we used to have quotes that once you've been working for a certain amount of time, you're working really hard to get your quote up, to get your salary up. They decided to get rid of that, so they no longer acknowledge or respect that. This industry is one of the few industries that seniority, that being in this industry for a long time, that gathering up an amazing resume doesn't mean anything to them. They literally, yes, there is some very wealthy actors, absolutely. There's 160,000 members in our union, 160,000. 1% are the top grossers, 1%. And of that, maybe 2% are the ones that literally support and uplift our union and keep the insurance going. Everybody else is below the line. People don't realize that SAG-AFTRA is not just actors. We're broadcasters, we're stunt coordinators, stunt workers, we're dancers and singers and voiceover artists. There's a huge umbrella that we encompass, and 98% of those people are below the line, are struggling to make a living in an industry that we all know is making billions. I think about this all the time. We talk about this in our caucuses. Back in the day, we used to talk about millions. Everybody wanted to make millions, and oh, wouldn't that be amazing? These people are making billions, and yet they don't have money to give us just a scooch more, to contribute to our pension and health, to allow us to qualify for our health insurance. We have actors that you all will recognize. You will know us from that guy on that show that have been lost their insurance, no longer qualify, and are hustling just to get a day on a job to just pay their rent, not even their insurance, their rent. This is a serious, crucial moment. It's this sounds hyperbolic or whatever, but it is a life or death situation, because we're talking about taking care of our families, taking care of our loved ones, if our parents, if they're getting older. You always, as a child, you want to be able to contribute. Should I be at this age still asking my parents for money? No, I should be taking care of my parents. It's painful.
It's crazy to think that actors who've been in so many different projects still don't have the means to qualify for health insurance. But it's yet another unfortunate part that plagues the entire industry. Things have also been getting really bad rather quickly for California as well, since their governor is actively trying to negotiate a deal between the studios and protesters in order to save California's economy. Gavin Newsom's advisor also said during a press release that it's clear that the sides are still far apart, but he is deeply concerned about the impact a prolonged strike can have on the regional and state economy, and that thousands of jobs depend directly or indirectly on Hollywood getting back to work, including crew, staff, and catering. The last time a strike happened, by the way, it costed California's economy around $2 billion in lost revenue. Although the governor's office is trying to bring the parties together, neither side is willing to cooperate. And it makes sense that Newsom would be so eager to see this strike end, since many of his benefactors to his campaign as governor are Hollywood elites like Chuck Lorre and Steven Spielberg. Likely he's trying to mend this problem before it gets even worse, but the fact the protesters don't want to meet kinda shows that Newsom is likely on the studio's side with this. And obviously he wants to end this strike regardless so that workers can continue to generate money for his office. And to show you just how diabolical those goddamn studios are, here's probably my favorite story out of everything related to this strike. A few days back, Universal Studios had their writers and actors striking outside of their offices. These protesters were using a long sidewalk beside the studio that was lined with trees. These protesters were using those trees as shade against the extreme heat wave that was all over Los Angeles. And Universal Studios is now being fined for allegedly trimming the trees down so that the protesters can't sit comfortably in the shade while fighting for equal rights. These companies are so evil. They literally looked at these protesters asking for livable wages and said, "Best we can do is cut those trees down so you maggots go away." Dude, what the hell? I know I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just so hilariously on brand. They literally took one look at these protesters and went, "We will destroy our trees before we give in to your demands." I can't, it's so stupid, but holy crap, dude. Universal, while they are being fined, has denied being responsible for trimming the trees, saying in a statement, "We understand that the safety tree trimming of the ficus trees we did on Barnum Boulevard has created unintended challenges for demonstrators. That was not our intention. In partnership with licensed arborists, we have pruned these trees annually at this time of year. We support the WGA and SAG's right to demonstrate and are working to provide some shade coverage." They're literally blaming the tree cutting, saying it was just coincidentally that time of the year. I can't. I'm convinced studio heads like the CEO of Disney is just sitting in his suite talking to a Mickey Mouse pillow like it's the goddamn Green Goblin mask. I just can't with this story. It kills me every time I read it. These studios would rather burn enough money to solve their problems and destroy nature than open their wallets to their workers. Also, it gets worse because those trees that got ruined by this phantom tree cutter that totally doesn't work for Universal Studios, it ended up causing protesters to stand further away from the sidewalk. And it resulted in 2 people so far getting struck by a car. I know I shouldn't be laughing, I'm sorry, it's so absurd. These goddamn trees are like a domino effect that's led to people being sent to hospitals now. Like, it's just so ridiculous. Anyway, that's all I got for you now. As you can see, the strikes are getting worse and studios are hellbent on burning it all down before they give in to demands. So what do you think of all this? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like the video and subscribe to keep up to date on all the nonsense and entertainment. Remember to drink water, don't cut your trees down, and I'll see you in the next one.